I'm going to be giving you a bowl demonstration. And so as I go through the basic techniques, if you have any questions, make sure that you go ahead and ask, because this is going on video, and probably the same questions will occur. Okay? Oh, power. Of course, I picked the best wheel in the house, you know. Of course, you have to get it centered. If you don't get it centered, and I have a nice shimmy here in my bat, but that's something that you get used to. Maybe. You know, I should have tried this before. This bat is shimmying real bad. Of course, we have minor problems. Huh? The bat's slipping. So we'll just slip some clay under it. Make it grab here. At least they get to see what happens, what to do when this happens too. There we go. Okay, now unlike any of the other pots that I've been showing you where you do an undercut, on the bowl you don't. You just open it up, same way. I use 2 hands and a sponge to go in so that it stays wet. And you don't go down as far as a normal pot, because you're going to be trimming the bottom as well as scooping the center part out with the rib. You're going to push the rib into the shape, so you have to leave some excess on the bottom. And let me show you about what that thickness is. Should be about like so. Okay, about that thick. So you can just take your bug pick or your ice pick and just poke it in there. Now I'm going to, let's see, Carol, you didn't see this. You want to come here a minute and see this? Can you get a shot of this on the inside? Maybe. Okay, so like instead of doing the undercut, what I'm going to do is create the bowl form on the inside, and I'm going to pull the clay from the inside as well as the outside. I have to have something to hang on to on the outside, so I'm going to grab some clay from under here and just pull it off my finger. That way my fingers can get under here and I can just lift this clay up like so. But the bowl stays in shape on the inside, but the outside is always a cylinder shape. And it'll take on the bowl shape once we get going. I go back to the center and again pull the clay up. What? Yeah, remember that the hand is like this. The outside hand is like so. The inside fingers are like this. Okay, and when I have to pull like so, my thumb gets tucked in. As long as I can keep the thumb on top, I do. But then when the clay starts to get so tall, that's no longer possible. So you just tuck the thumb in, down to the center, and as soon as you come past this curve, you push it into the right hand and make sure that that thumb is out, because you're going to support all that weight. The other thing on a bowl shape is make sure that you keep these walls wet. And anytime that you're throwing a larger amount of clay, whether it be straight cylinder, bowl form, or whatever, make sure that you come back down on top of the lip form. Keep that lip heavy. Now, the lip helps keep the clay on center as well as it pushes the clay back into the walls. So anytime that you go to do a pull, you're always pulling the clay from the bottom. If you don't do this, you're going to keep pulling the clay from the walls rather than from the bottom. Now again, I'm going to cut here and make sure those walls are wet. Now notice the outside is staying in cylinder form. And continue to get the water out of the inside, even though you continue to wet the walls again, because the inside will absorb. Now this time I'm going to take my hand that's on the inside and turn it down like this. I'm going to use this side of my finger down, because I want to push against this hand like this. Undercut again, and lift. Okay, so right now the clay is up, and you'll notice that it's still a cylinder, with the exception of the inside of that pot. Now, a lot of times when students first learn how to throw a bowl or a curved form, they try to like pull it out like this. How many of you have had that experience and the thing just collapses, falls down on you? Okay, anytime that you're throwing pots that have a curve like this, if you can throw them with what we call stress, where you're forcing that curve rather than throwing that curve, okay, like the great Grecian urns, okay, these horrendous curves with these very, very narrow feet, they're ribbed down, they're joined together, there's two pieces that are put together. It's never like pulled out off this narrow, narrow foot and then the thing collapses. Okay, so what I'm going to do is stress this bowl into shape now. I'm going to take the rubber rib, curved in, down, flat side towards me. Okay, and you'll notice that as soon as I start to stress this bowl, when I push out on the top, even though this is coming out, as soon as I rib down, get down towards the center, this lip's going to come back in. Okay? And that's what you want it to do. When you start to pull a bowl with a curve in this fashion, they collapse. That once you get that top out, there's no way to get it back in, okay, on something really large. So you'll notice that as I rib down, the outside of the bowl is starting to take shape. Okay, and that lip curls back in. And the idea on the bowl is to follow all the way through to the center and get this curve to flow. Because when you're talking about a bowl, you have to start thinking in terms of, since it's a very, very functional item in the utilitarian sense, you have to start thinking about what are bowls used for. Okay, they're used like for popcorn, something you want to toss it in the butter. You want to use it for pancake batter, a salad, something that forks and spoons can move easily across that curve. So you don't want like a flat bottom or an edge in it. You want it to flow. I always keep the lip wet, hang on to it with my left hand, take my right hand, rib in at the top, and then start to rib down. And there's always a follow-through all the way to the center of the bowl. Now I'm really pushing hard when I get towards the bottom, and I'm actually removing clay from the pot. You have all of this weight down here to support the bowl shape. Okay, so you can afford to really, really push and really exaggerate on the amount of clay that you're taking out of it to get that curve to flow. You want it just to flow all the way through. So again, I'll wet my hand, grab a hold of the lip. If it sticks at all, just take a sponge and wet the whole lip. You want it to slide by your hands easily. See how that lip always goes back in? How it just kind of turns in, never hangs out in space? So now I'm going to pull it out again. Rib down. And I'm doing it very, very gently. It's as gently as what I showed you when I showed you what a lift was. The squeeze. It's exactly the same. You don't have to push real hard. The only time you push hard is when you're right down here in the center and you're actually removing clay. Pull out again. And you'll notice that I'm doing this in several steps. I'm not like, pulling the bowl all out at once. And as soon as you get to this mass down here where you know the clay is supporting that curve, you can really, really push and really, really remove the clay. Let me get the water out of here. I don't want to push water into the foot. If you push water into the foot, you'll get an S-crack. And that's basically it on the demonstration, and then just getting the curve nice and even, which means to follow back through. Now if you want to, what you can do is you can take a bowl like this and let it set up for about 15-20 minutes in front of the fan, and then come back and get it and spread it out even more, because then some of the moisture is out of the clay. Okay, I can go a little further on this one. Might as well push it to the max here. If you feel that the bowl's starting to go down a little bit, like I've really pulled this one as far as I can pull it, what you can do is take your left hand, set it down here as a support, and continue to rib on down so that that curve flows. Okay, now as far as the foot goes, what I'll do is I'll just leave it alone and come back and trim it. By leaving all the clay on the bottom, I have the option of cutting it off, trimming it into a straight foot, rounding it off. There's all kinds of alternatives, which I'll show you on the trimming demonstration. Now take your sponge and soften the lip. Because when you start handling a bowl this size, again, from the utilitarian sense, in your kitchen sink, when you start pushing something like this around in the sink, the first thing that's going to go is the lip. It's going to chip. So round the edges off so that when you're handling it in the kitchen sink, you don't have that problem. Do you have any questions? Nothing? Okay, that's it.
That's the bowl you can get with 25 pounds?
What?
That's as big as you can get with 25 pounds?
That's not 25. I cut the bag in half.
12.
This is a 12-pounder. I can get a little more out of this. Oh, 25 would be out here. But we thought it would be a real impractical demonstration to give. So I decided to go with a half bag, something more that students could handle.
You're not pulling clay off the sides as you come down, just when you get to the base. When you're ribbing it out.
You remove clay, not on the sides, but at the base. As soon as you get to the support system, you start to push it through. You run it all the way through the curve. And you can make decisions about whether you want the bowl tall, or wide. When I do my large platters, I start with a bowl shape like this, but the base is much broader. Okay, and then I just set them up in front of the fan for about a half hour, and then I just start to lay them out. Because then the moisture's out, and I can just pressure the thing into shape. Okay? Any more questions? Okay.
Nice to have a camera.
You don't have to if you don't want to. I mean,
When are we ready?
We are taping now.
Oh, we are taping? Okay, you want me to give the introduction again?
No, you don't have to. We're just doing insert shots right now.
Oh, an insert, okay.
You're going to do the same shape bowl now, right?
Well, yeah, hopefully. Do you want me to talk into it? Explain what I'm doing? Okay, when you do the bowl shape, one thing that's really important is to get a wider base than what you need. Because we're not going to pull the bowl, we're going to stretch the bowl. We're going to cause it to have its form by stress. Okay, not by picking it up and throwing it like this, but rather pushing it into shape. So you want a wider base so that it can support that curve. Okay? So we're going to open it up. And you don't go as far down as you would on a normal pot because we're going to be ribbing it into that curve. And also you want some room to trim. So just take your ice pick or your bug pick, put it in there, and you want a thickness about like so. Okay? Now I'm going to get this bowl curve on the inside, and it's going to remain a cylinder on the outside. I'm going to remove clay here so that I have something for my fingers to sit under, and so I can slide into this bowl form because I don't want to do an undercut. You don't do an undercut on the bowl. Come down on the lip. Get that thickness in there right away. Now, maybe if I remove some of this water, you can see what I'm doing. I want to remove this water so that you can see that the bowl shape. I go back to the center. And again, lift it on the inside, maintaining the bowl and pulling a cylinder on the outside. Come down on the lip, and the lip gives you a mass of clay at the top, so that what it does is it keeps that pot on center. And this is true anytime you go to make large pots. That mass of clay at the top, if you can get into that habit early, it'll always keep that clay on center. If you get it real thin and you just bump it, it's off. And this also gives you something to hang on to when you're working with that bowl or cylinder or whatever it is that you're going to do. Now this time I'm going to change the position of my inside fingers. I'm going to use this part of my finger. Okay, and it's going to ride on the inside like this, and it's going to come up against my outside hand. Remove some clay again. And lift that clay. Now most of the clay, as you can see, is lifting from the outside. As soon as I can get my hand out here and pull, I will. Always use your thumbs. Anytime you can use your thumb, use your thumb. Now we'll get the water out of the inside again so you can see that it's a curve. Make sure the walls are relatively even. Lift a little more clay. Okay, now this is when the bowl starts to happen. You've got your clay up. Now we're going to take the rib and start ribbing it from the inside. You use the curved side of the rib with the flat side towards you. Flat side towards you. Hold the rim. Always hold the lip with your left hand. Okay? Take this hand and start running it down. Now one thing you'll notice is that when you do bowls that are thrown like so, they always want to collapse on you. When you do it this way, with the rib, you're ribbing in, and that lip, rather than going out further all the time, will bring itself back in as the bowl starts to form. So you can't get yourself in too much trouble, you know, with the pot wanting to collapse on you. You'll notice this lip coming right back in. And as soon as you hit this base where there's extra clay, that base down there that's supporting this, you can really, really push in and remove the clay so that that bowl starts to assume a beautiful curve on the inside. And because this is a very, very functional item in the utilitarian sense, you want to think of things that bowls are used for. They're used like for popcorn and butter, and they're used for like making pancakes, you know, so something, or salad, something that you can move spoons and forks across that surface very, very nicely. Okay, if you have a flat end, it's going to bump into it, or your salad dressing is going to, you know, drop to the bottom, or all the butter of your popcorn. Okay, if you use bowls for pancake batter, one thing that's really nice to remember is that if you have a lip on it, pancake batter is the type of thing that you come up and you go wallop, wallop, you know, with your spoon. So if you have a real thin lip, you're going to lose that lip the first time you use it. So depending on what you're using it for, that's kind of like the decision that you make about how you want your lip to be. I, of course, picked the best wheel in the house. It doesn't have a real variable speed here. Okay, now I'm really removing the clay and I'm doing a complete follow through. And this is a thing that's very, very important, is that you always bring that rib all the way to the center. Follow all the way through to the center of the pot. And again, I'm removing clay. Okay, but I only remove clay when I hit that base that's supporting the bowl. Until that time, it's all I'm doing is forming the bowl. Make that lip wet again so that my hand can slide by it. Pull the bowl out. Rib. And again, remove clay and push it. Really, really push it so that you get that curve to really flow beautifully in that bowl. Okay, and you'll notice that the whole outside of that bowl is being formed by the inside motions. So we can push this bowl a little further here. If this lip starts to turn out on you, just bring it right back up. Tilt it right back up. Remember, the lip will go in any direction that you make your finger go. So let's grab a hold of it again. Push. And I'm being very gentle right now because I'm getting the top very, very thin. And I'm getting here, and I'm going to start, I can feel the clay at the top is getting very, very thin. So what you can do is take your left hand and put it at the bottom and support that base as you continue on down for the curve of that bowl. And as you can see, in order to get that curve, I really have to push. And then you can go back in and finish it and get that curve very, very nice, flow all the way through. And this is, you know, when you're making functional items, this is the kind of thing you want to think about, is what are you going to use this thing for? What is the most common use? And that will determine the kind of curve that you want, how tall you want that bowl to be, how wide you want that bowl to be, what kind of lip that bowl has on it, what kind of foot. Serving bowls can be, you know, like very, very different from a very, very functional bowl, in that maybe like if you've eaten in a Japanese or a Chinese restaurant, you notice that they bring these kind of very beautiful shallow bowls to the table, and they stand on a foot about so high, you know, and it like presents the food. So that kind of concept compared to that of a pancake bowl, you know, a bowl for making pancake batter that you want to turn on its side, whip batter in, is very, very different. Okay, now the lip on a bowl, always get those edges very, very soft. You don't want to leave any sharp edges on them. When you start handling a bowl, like this bowl is not real large, but it still, you know, is a little bit of a hassle in a kitchen sink. So when you start to deal with a bowl this size in a kitchen sink, the first thing that's going to go is the lip. So make sure that you soften that lip up. Okay, get all the edges off of it. All right? Now, the foot, we can, I need a wooden rib. Let's see. The foot, let me grab a wooden rib here somewhere. Thanks, dear. Right now, okay, the foot, what we can do later is go in and trim it. We can get rid of that extra. Okay, take all of that off. And when I give you the trimming demonstration, I'll talk to you about some options, but there's some things to think about when you have a foot like this. Do you want that bowl to be very, very round? Is it going to be something that you're going to turn on its side when you mix in the kitchen? You know, is it something like that, or you want it to set on a foot or whatever? And there's all kinds of options about what you're going to do with this thing. So when it comes to trimming, I always just leave it like this and then come in and make some decisions, you know, about what kind of foot I want on the bowl after I've gotten it off the wheel. Right now I have a form, really nice form happening right here, so I'll just get in here and define it, clarify it. and maybe take this lip, turn it out just a little bit, give it a little bit more of a flare. And it opens the bowl up. And again, come in and soften the lip. Do you have any questions so far? We can clarify this a little more too. Since I've taken this lip and defined it on the outside, I can do the same thing on the inside just by taking the rubber rib and pushing it very gently right here and creating a different kind of line on the inside. Just another kind of an option for you, and then come back and soften that lip up. So you can see that right now this is a different kind of line, but basically it's the same as the line that I have going on the outside. Do you have any questions at all? No?
Johnny, don't move. I want you to do something for me. Your hand, act like you're working with the rim and your face down.
Rib it and face down. Okay.
Not the rim, I'm sorry, the edge, the lip.
Oh, the lip.
I don't know the terms.
You want me to...
Just like that. And you can kind of move your lips, but don't do anything.
Definitely Japanese later.
Right.
Just fine, thank you.
I was singing Home Home on the Range.
Oh, is that what you Okay. That's it.
Did you think it looks better now?